All right, guys, we're back again. Sorry about that. Something went wrong with the camera, and YouTube would not reconnect. So we're back. I'm going to give this just a second to populate and put a note on the other live stream. So if you give me one moment, bear with me. All right, everybody, we are live. We get a sound check from anybody that is there and let me know. All righty, sorry for that. Let's see what's going on. Let's see, nobody's here yet, so I'll just hang out. Hey, technical difficulties messing the whole thing up. Hey Doug, what's going on? I am doing just fine. Dealing with a little bit of technical difficulties here. The last stream went down, but we're back, so what are you gonna do? Just getting a little bit of information there. All right. Man, hot in Alabama. Okay, it is sticky in Oklahoma City. We've had just nonstop rain. I guess whatever this storm is that, I don't know if it's past you guys yet, but definitely was hitting you. That has, I think we're on like 6 or 7 straight days of rain now, and it sucks. I haven't been able to, I've been waiting on installs. I had some welding to do outside that I finally just bit the bullet and went and did, even though it was raining, but that's what it is. Anyway, this is going to be most people watching afterward. Normally, I try and do these live streams every Thursday or every other. I think it's been 2 weeks since I've done one now. Unfortunately, after kind of looking into it, it turns out that has just been killing me on YouTube. Their algorithm, I guess, doesn't like it when you do what they see as a 2-hour video, and not a lot of people watch and not a lot of people stay for the whole thing, which I understand. You know, lives are kind of about happening live. So unfortunately, I'm going to be rolling these back to once a month, and I'm going to aim for the, I'm going to commit to the first Thursday of every month. It'll still be 8 p.m. Central, which is, 6 on the West Coast and 9 on the East Coast and 7 o'clock for people in Denver. So it's unfortunate. I really wish that more of this interactive type of content was, I guess I wish YouTube appreciated it more or didn't ding you for doing that. So what are you going to do? I have thought about doing a Google Hangout, but I mean, to be honest, I know how this sounds like I kind of hate watching those. Like if it's a couple of really interesting people having a conversation, that I like. It's like a debate, but for just, you know, like 2 or 3 people, it always just turns into a ramble fest. And I'm sure that's what it is with just me. But I try and be here answering questions when people have them. So it's not just that. You know, I'd much prefer if these sort of events were just, you know, a whole bunch of questions and answers, but it is what it is. Now, as far as what's going on right now, this is my new office. We've been working on this for a long time, but I really buckled down and finished it over the weekend with the help of my lady. What we've done here is I've got my computer set up right in front of me, and then off to this side, I'm not going to dare move that camera because it just messed up when I did it. But off to this side is an 8-foot desk. It's like 28 inches wide, or deep, I should say. And I'm going to have some shelving and my parts bins and stuff. This is kind of where I tinker with my electronics. And then, okay. Thank you, camera. Then over here is my lady's computer area, or going to be right now. It's just empty. And then we've got the printer, just a standard 2D printer. And the 3D printer back here. Let me get this out of the way. And we're going to put a couch there and a TV up on the wall over here, which will be nice. Turn this light down. go. So the well, couch there and a TV there, which would be nice. That closet back there with all the yellow bins in it is eventually going to be my little 3D printing area. But there you go. Doug, if you got questions, man, throw them in the chat. I know it's more laborious to type them out, but I'd be happy to answer them. That's what I like about these things. Yeah, what else is going on? It's been the week's been put off by the weather, but doing a bunch of little things in the shop. I just put out that video this morning of the scooter, electric scooter trailer hitch mount thing. It was kind of a fun one. It was a customer I've done a bunch of stuff for who just called me up and was like, hey, I got this scooter and I have this trailer that mounts to my bike. Can you make the two of them get along? And I was like, probably. Then I called him back on Tuesday because it was raining. And I said, bring that over here. I got a couple hours to kill. I was just going to go home and edit. So a little bit of time in the shop's always fun. And got that one knocked out. And it was an easy video edit, or easy enough video edit too. It's really great when you work on a project that's all at one time, because you can just turn right around and go edit it and it's still fresh in your memory. And when you try and put together, a lot of the sign projects I do, especially with powder coating, it could be 3 weeks from start of a project to the install. And it's hard to go back and remember everything from 3 weeks ago when you go to edit it. So James is asking, where do I get my customers and how do I price my signs? My customers are mostly word of mouth. YouTube's a little bit of advertising. I've sold a couple things to people who found me on YouTube. The same with Instagram. But I've been at it for like 5 years now. And, I get calls from people that, hey, so-and-so gave me a number and I got this thing that I need. And then the building that I work in, they up at the front will also sell signs to customers they have. They do a lot of like interior design and decorating type of stuff. And I'm always happy to have that because, it's like a sales team that I don't have to, worry about if they're not selling anything. So, and then pricing, it's basically the first time I do a new type of sign or a new project, there's a lot of, I think it's going to take this long. And then you iterate on that. You do one and you realize the mistakes you made that would make you go faster. You realize how long something actually did take. So you go back and you adjust your prices and you just kind of iterate on that over and over and over again until you get to where you're getting paid as well as you can for your work and the customer's getting as good of a value as they can for their money. I'm not going to touch that. And Doug's asking if I've done any go-kart frames, not from the ground up, but I've worked on all sorts of little stuff like that. That's kind of like the only sort of vehicle work that I do. I don't touch people's cars. I shouldn't say that. I'll do a bumper or something like that if it came in, but I don't chase that sort of work. But I'm not touching the frame of cars. I'm not touching anything that could hurt somebody. There's so much stupid liability in that, and everybody loves to sue each other, so I don't do it. I don't know what if means, but it's good. Anywho, what else been going on this week? So I just put out that video. I just wrapped up. If you guys are following on Instagram, I just put up a picture of this Northwest Automotive Repair sign. My Instagram is @42fabricate. I'm working on getting 42fab. This Northwest Automotive Repair sign was a cool one. It's like an 8.5 foot wide oval. It's about, I think it's 47 inches tall, something like that. And it's front and back. It's 8 inches thick. It's got a big structure inside of it because it's a heavy sign. And then all the lettering that goes on the front, well, the background is just totally rusted out. I used my kind of proprietary rust juice to make it rust. And I'm actually working on a demonstration of that concoction I've come up with, and I want to offer it for sale to people. It would be pretty cheap. It's something that you mix with vinegar. So you take a gallon of vinegar and you dump in this bottle, and then you're good to go. But yeah, so we rusted that out, and it got to what you see in the picture in 2 days, from like brand new steel to that. And really it was 1 day, but it's 2 sides. So you rust it and you got to flip it over and do the other side. But then on the lettering, it says Northwest Automotive, and then there's a wrench through the middle. And the lettering was powder coated and then bolted into place. So I think it looks cool. I love making stuff like from brand new material that looks old. That's just such a, I don't know. There's something satisfying about it. Like, you could knock out something that's all polished and nice, and everybody, there's lots of places that do that, but making stuff look old again is kind of fun. And yeah, a little bit of furniture. I'm doing a couple weird things lately. I've got a few signs that are waiting to go be installed, and other pieces too. Some like balcony decorations and a facade for like the roof over a guy's front door. Like a metal trim. It looks like an I-beam, but it's obviously not just an I-beam bolted up into place. And it's all just waiting on rain. And I'm just having a rain delay week. So it is what it is. I've been taking care of a couple things at the shop that I really had to get done. I got done today pretty much everything that I have until rain stops. I took a bunch of stuff to the powder coater today and picked up some of the things I dropped off. And James is asking about trailers. I don't really work on trailers. I'm not going to weld a hitch on for you. If your gate's broken, I'll fix that. But it's just liability. I would do all that for me, no problem. But the liability is just a nightmare. Anyway, if you guys watched the shop tour video that I put out about a week or so ago now, maybe a little bit more than that, one of the things I mentioned in that is anytime I build a work surface that's mounted to a wall, I never put legs on it if I can avoid it. And I did the same thing with this desk. I love it. Like, it's all these triangles or angled pieces that they start underneath and they slope back towards the wall, and then they hook down a little bit deeper so that they have the strength. But you might not even be able to see it here. But those are bolted into the studs, and they're on every other stud all the way around. This is 23 feet of desk all the way around here in a big J shape. But there's just nothing to hook your feet on. And I love it. It takes a little bit more work to get right, but boom, no problems after that. Anyway, if you guys let me know what you guys have been working on. I like hearing that. I like hearing, the crazy stuff we all come up with, especially if you're into welding or you do something with specialty tools. People start to find out that you're the guy with that tool, and you get just all sorts of weird requests all the time, like building a trailer mount for a scooter. So, Anywho, so it's been 3 weeks or so since I've done that, since I did one of these live streams. And outside of what you guys have already seen, if you're up to date on my videos, other than, gosh, I hate these sort of days where I'm just waiting on install. There's nothing to do. So, yeah, that's it. What's coming up, though? I am going to be going on a pretty big trip, kind of all throughout the eastern United States. So if you guys are around, give me a shout. I think my route is going to be Oklahoma City to Chicago to Charlotte, North Carolina, possibly to Tampa, Florida, but definitely to Atlanta. And then I'll be in Memphis and then I'll be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then I'll be back to Oklahoma City. It's going to be like 2.5 weeks. Final dates aren't nailed down, but if you're anywhere along that route, give me a shout. I will be taking basically all of my tools with me except for the plasma cutter. And I won't take all my duplicates of things, but I'll have all the major stuff. So it'll be an interesting little trip. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't really know exactly what's going to come out of it, but I need to be in North Carolina for a wedding, and I've been wanting to go to Atlanta for a while and bump into Chad from Mancrafting and a couple other people. I'm going to be stopping in Memphis to work with Caleb from You Can Make This Too. I believe I'm saying that right. Yeah, You Can Make This Too. And then I've got some stuff that's not ironed out yet in Chicago. So there you go. Again, anybody that's here new, these 30-minute Thursday live chats, unfortunately, because of the way YouTube's doing their algorithm, it's just been killing me by having a long video up that not a lot of people watch, and people don't watch for a long duration. So unfortunately, I'm going to be rolling these back to doing them the first Thursday of every month. Wish I could do them a little bit more often, but it's like if you go look at my videos and just look at the response to them and the view counts and all of that, it basically, as soon as I started doing these weekly live chats, everything just went to hell. And you don't want to be motivated by your metrics too much, but it's a real pain to spend a lot of time on a project, spend 20-30 hours on a video edit, and then just have it flop. So this is just what it's going to become. Anywho, let me hear from you guys. Y'all are quiet. I see if I didn't miss anything. No. Maybe if you guys would want to do this as a Google Hangout, let me know. Maybe we could try that out. I know Doug was interested in that, but let's see if anybody else is. If you're ever in Oklahoma City too, check out Picasso Cafe. It's kind of a hipster place, but they have some really interesting food, especially for if you have any sort of like dietary restrictions, they have options for all of that. And I have, except for some old wooden benches, all of their outdoor furniture was purchased from me, and it's all custom. I did a video on building some giant benches for a local bar, and that's them. So it's a good one to see. New projects. Thinking about doing let me know, guys, do you think that a video on like the benefits to a 3D printer in the shop would be something that you would find interesting? It's it's a little more difficult to use one because, well, to make stuff custom for you. If you're finding designs and printing them, that's not all that much more complicated than a regular printer. But if you need something custom, this is an awesome thing that it's an awesome tool to have in the shop. Let me see if I can grab some of the things we made just in the last couple days. Anyway, I know I've got something over here. Yeah, this one. This one was kind of a fail because you may be able to see it. It got a little bit warped on the bottom there. Delaminated off the bed, which happens if you don't have everything dead level. But this was a piece that DeWalt sells these USB battery adapters. They're just they look like the bottom of a tool, and you stick them on a battery, and they give you 2 USB ports out. But for whatever reason, they don't have a piece molded into them that interlocks with the clip on the battery, the part that you depress when you hit the little button on the back of the battery to remove it. So, you put them on, you just pull them right back off. I mean, they mate in with the connectors, but there's no positive retention there. So this little piece on this side fits into a recess in that USB adapter. And then on this side, it has a divot that the battery can, or the clip, I don't know what to call it, the retainer on the battery can interlock with. And that, you take this and you just glue it up into the USB adapter piece. And then this will help you hold help the USB things stay on the batteries. Mike G, everything's good except for the rain. That's what's killing me right now. Hate the rain. But I guess we kind of need it in Oklahoma. It was getting dry. Anywho, so that's, the sort of thing with the 3D printer that is just good to have. Another one is we've got, how should I describe this? When I got the new plasma cutter from HTP, it's a machine torch, which is, Vanna White's bringing in some pieces. Thank you. So, like for example, this is a 3D printed piece right here. Our bed posts are 1.5 inch square tube. It's something I built years ago. And we have a light and fan combo unit that uses this remote. And we're always losing it or knocking it off the bed or whatever. So just took some measurements and then, that's the sort of thing that's awesome with the 3D printer. Yeah, you can put some Velcro on the back of this, but that would, I don't know. I think that looks terrible. And the wife insists we have cats, so cat hair and everything. And then the same thing for the TV remote. I figured while I was at it, why not make two? And the good thing about these is, you can still hit all the buttons. But the 3D printer, so I got the new plasma cutter from HTP, and it's got a machine torch on it, which is, a regular plasma torch, like a hand torch for a plasma cutter, has a part you grip and then it makes a 90 degree and it's short. And the old plasma setup held onto that 90 degree piece. So it was just a little piece down at the bottom of the Z-axis on the table, and it just clamped in with one bolt. And that worked fine. There's not enough force there creating a moment on that joint to make it wobble. But with a machine torch that's heavier, and they're like 18 inches long too, they stick up out of that little grip, and the whole thing could move around. So when you're on one side of the table, the torch would lean one way, and then you'd move it over and it would lean the other way on the other side of the table. And you could see that in the cut. So I needed something that was more secure and mounted to the torch. And then the torch was also a different diameter. And it was larger, so I couldn't make a shim or something. So eventually I just broke down and I 3D printed a little piece that held the bottom of the torch, and that held it at the correct, it dealt with the size of the torch correctly, but it didn't fix the wobble because it was only 1 inch tall. So I took the whole Z-axis off the machine and brought it home one night and sat there making measurements. And in Fusion 360, going through the process, thank you, Felicia Tronica, going through the process of kind of modeling what I needed, and what I ended up with were two separate pieces. I wish I might have a picture, but I ended up with two separate pieces that came together to create like 1 3/4 or 1 3/4 inch piece at the bottom that gripped the shaft of the machine torch. And then about 4 inches above it, it had another piece which would hold on to it. And the two of them in conjunction, that torch doesn't move at all. And amazingly, if you're into 3D printing, you'll know why this is weird. The whole thing, I printed the whole thing in PLA just to see, to test it out. PLA is easier to print. It's not really cheaper, but it's easier to print. It's more forgiving. and printed the whole thing out. And the PLAs held up fine to the heat from plasma cutting, which surprised me a lot, because if you have something PLA in your car, it'll warp just from the 130, 140 degrees it gets in there when it's sunny outside and you leave stuff in your car. So, yeah, I don't know. 3D printers are an awesome thing to have, but they do have a learning curve when it comes to the modeling. So, I don't know. I probably will end up doing a video about the different things in the shop. Like I have those 3D printed battery holders. I don't have any right here, unfortunately. I don't believe. No, I don't. I have them all at the shop now. But there you go. If you guys are relatively new to the channel, I'd love hearing where you guys are finding me. That's always interesting information for me. It's not something that I can really find in any of the metrics or analytics that YouTube gives you, not reliably at least. So that's always good info. If you guys want to let me know, I appreciate that. And if you guys have new creators, especially smaller channels who are in the same area, let me know about them too. Not geographically, the same kind of type of work. I love hearing about that. I feel like that's one of the biggest benefits of this whole YouTube community is you can watch, if you're coming at it with like an educational angle, is you can watch how other people work and just pick up little tricks. Kind of my favorite one to go back to is Doug Jackson over at SV Seeker. He was just doing this random video about using nutserts, and they're like a threaded rivet. And I was sitting there going, what the heck is this? I've never even heard of these things. Thank you very much, Gary. So I went and looked into them, and then just immediately spent like $250. I bought the tool. I bought a whole bunch of the nutserts in different sizes, and I use the heck out of them now. Yeah, Ian, that seems to be a popular progression there. I don't know. Chucky's got, I don't know where he gets the energy to put out videos like he does, but power to him. If I could, I would, but man, it's rough to edit. Like, I really should do this as a hangout instead of using YouTube's app, because then I could, do a screen share and I'd be able to show you what an edit looks like. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and I get really analytical with it and have to sit there and like make sure all my cuts hit exactly where I want them to. But I don't know. I'm happy with the end result in the end generally, so that's why I spend the time to do it. What's up? What's big shop news? Any big shop news? No, I am I spent most of this rain delay catching up on stuff, getting ahead on like cleaning and organizing. I just bought like 30 of those plastic shoebox size things, yay big, and just sorted out all my electronics into them. And that has like all my little tools at the shop. Like I have a whole bin full of, or I made a shelf for them, and I have a whole setup for everything for all my LED work on lights. And then I have an area for like little metal tools, like wire brushes and stuff, and an area for glues and tapes. And that's been helpful. Just being able to find things a little bit faster. I haven't labeled everything yet, which hasn't helped, but there you go. Ian, if you ever get an edit done that doesn't take longer than the shooting, let me know. Unless it's just some quick video. Editing is a time suck. It's about a minute, about an hour of work for every minute of finished video that's coming out, generally. I am going to be, I'm going to be down in Lindale for helping Justin over at the Good of the Land with the project around the beginning of October. Um, and that would be, I don't know exactly what's going on. He just wanted a welder, and I haven't been down there. It sounds cool, so I'm going to go. And then he's doing the Good of the Land Festival or something out. Yeah. God, I love these people. Anyway, the Good of the Land Fest is November 17th, I believe. And he's it's this big event, and I think it's their first annual, or I don't know if it's going to be annual, but we'll see. That's going to be really exciting. If you guys are anywhere near Dallas, or Lindale is, I think, about an hour east of central Dallas. If you guys are within 4 or 5 hours, you should go. It's November 17th. He's got information on his Instagram about it. He's going to have some more information on YouTube, and I'll be down there for that too. So that'll be there. Apparently there's going to be a bunch of YouTubers there, a lot of big channels, so it should be fun. John, don't feed the trolls. YouTube has this awesome feature where you can just mute people, and they can type all they want to, but nobody else can see their stuff once I mute them, so they can just talk into the wind. But there you go. So I don't think if there's any. I'm like getting close to doing. I'm getting close to being done with a bunch of projects, and that'll be fun. You know, it's always a really good feeling when you're in the middle of a lot of stuff and you're spending a bunch of money, but not a whole lot's coming in, and then you start to finish things up. I have one that is going to be another channel letter sign with the reverse LED lighting. Those are ones I love building. I think they just end up looking awesome when they're done. And the process is, it's kind of, you do this and then you do this and then you do that. You know, it's very, you go through the steps. It's not, you're welding and then you're welding and then you're welding and then you're welding. It's you're plasma cutting, then you're welding, then you're doing then you're painting, then you're doing lighting, then you're doing install, or doing weatherproofing, then doing install. And so those always end up being fun. This one is going to look awesome. It's got a flying pair of scissors, which is, again, I should do this so I can do a screen share, but that'll be, actually, I bet I can find the render on my phone. Yeah, that one will be a bunch of fun. A couple different lighting setups in it, which is also fun. If you guys, while I'm doing this, have you guys seen these rocket stoves? This is actually the first one I ever made. It was kind of my example. This is 16 gauge, and the welding looks like hell because I just threw it together as fast as I could to see if the idea worked, and then we lit a fire in it one time. There's a ash crate down there. Now I use a different kind of ash crate. These are kits that actually, and then inside of it, there is, got that on backwards. Comes with this pan stand that just kind of clips into place. And these are designed to fit into a flat rate envelope so that anywhere in the country I can send these for like $7 or $8, I think it is. So it's, it's free shipping. I know what it is, so it's just built into the cost of them. Those are an awesome one for, and I give you a discount if you want to buy multiples too. They're an awesome one for people that are, trying to learn how to weld or teach someone else how to weld even more. Yeah, Eric, new office. I finally finished it. I have been trying to get this place done forever, and it's finally done, and I love it. But those rocket stove kits, I've got like 5 or 6 other kits kind of in my head, and I've figured most of them out. But there's a little, it's trying to figure out if they're the right thing, if people will actually want to try them out, or, you know, if they're worth pursuing, because if I'm going to do it, I got to cut out a whole bunch of them. It's not it's a fairly significant amount of metal to cut up to get one of these going. There you go. This is a terrible way to do this. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's like a pair of, there you go. It's like a pair of scissors with wings. That is, that's the channel lid's on. It's been a long day, and it's been hot. It's been 100% humidity killing me here. Ian is asking, can I use a 3D printer to prototype fab mock-ups, printing parts you'd weld up in steel in reality, for example? Kind of, because I have the plasma cutter at work, generally if I do my 3D modeling in Fusion 360, and in Fusion 360, you can take a face and export it as an SVG, which is then easy to import, or I think it's DXF, whatever. It's a vector. And then you can import that into my cutting software and just go right from there. So, and it maintains the proportions and the scale correctly. So if I come up with an idea and I make it in Fusion, most of the time it's easier to just take it out of there and go right to the plasma cutter and then tweak it. But if I wanted to, I could 3D print some stuff. This is the 3D printer that's available from Monoprice. I think these are $350 or $400 right now. I got this one on sale. It was like $280. They were doing some sale 6 months or so ago. I had a printer bot years ago, and let's see if we can fix that. There you go. I had a printer bot years ago, and it was like a kit that you ordered, and then or you could order just the hardware and then make all the structural components yourself. And I had some changes made to it to make it a little bit bigger, and then went from there and put the thing together. And that worked great, but it was kind of the older generation of stuff, and they didn't have the same accuracy the new ones do. These ones are, I mean, you just turn them on, and then they boot up. Everything on them stores on an SD card, and you can hook these directly up to the computer. But the advantage of the SD card is that if if your computer has to reboot, or if Windows decides to go down for some reason, the printer just keeps running all by itself. Yeah, I mean they're great little machines, and these spools of wire, which are, I'm not going to keep listening to that now. These spools of filament are 1 kilogram each of filament, and anywhere from like $13, $14 up to $20, $21 for PLA, or if you want to get into some of the more exotic materials, that can get more expensive, and they look cool. They are very interesting. And then to combine with that, so this is one of the old Kinect game things from an Xbox. I think this is actually the one that was made for a PC. But there's a piece of software out there called Scanect, and oh crap! Oh, there you go. Anyway, Scanect. Those are pretty resilient. Yeah, Scanect is the Kinect has like 2 cameras in it with some sort of distance measuring system built into it, and basically it's getting like a 2D depth field, which would be 3D. And so you sit there and you move the scanner around, or you like rotate the object in front of it, and you can get a pretty good rendering of something. I mean, you're not going to get like millimeter detail, but you can get pretty good, or even like a whole room. with that and Skinect. And I mean, Skinect is like $130, but in my opinion, it was worth it. And they do have a free version that does like little pieces, but yeah. So that's a great way. I'm you know, it's like the maker brain. I've got these ideas rolling around that we'll see. What I'm hoping to do is slow down on some of the stuff at the shop. I'm taking on less of the little small jobs, except for the ones that like are fun, and going to be spending more time working on some of the higher time investment, higher return projects, which should hopefully free me up to have some time to work on my house, which there's lots of stuff that needs to be done here, especially outside. We're going to be building like 1,500 feet of pipe fence relatively soon, and that's going to be a heck of a lot of work. But like, you know, some of my ideas with I have an idea for like a whole body automatic scanner that could scan, you know, the size of a person, or you could put a sculpture in it and it could scan that, and then you could reprint it smaller. I got all these crazy little ideas bouncing around, and it's just a matter of which one bubbles to the top and gets done first. Yeah, that's it, Eric. It is time of flight. I don't think those are time of flight. That would be a really nice scanner for Microsoft to put in Kinects. I think they're. If I'm not mistaken, there's a projector projecting out a grid, and then the other cameras are reading that grid, and I believe it's all in IR. Should just plug it in and find out. I don't know if that will make it boot up, but if it does, you can generally see IR with your phone camera. So we'll see. Yeah, this is my new office. I mean, it's been the office ever since we bought this house, but it just was never done. We built these desk frames like 4 or 5 months ago, and then it took like 2 months to get them installed. And then I had to bring my welder and everything home because this bank here and this bank over here were built as pieces at the shop, but then this middle piece that connects them, this is basically a big J shape. This middle piece that connects them is, you know, had to be made here because, of course, the room's not perfectly square. And then I just welded it into place. I thought about bolting it in, but bleh. Eric, do you know that they're using time of flight? Because that blows my mind if they really are. I was convinced that it's you know, the 3D scanners that have like a laser line projector, and then you take a picture from the side and you read that line, and then as you rotate it, you can generate a 3D model. God, that's cool. Okay, that's probably it then. Yeah, because I can't believe that this is Kinect for Windows. So, yeah, I don't see anything. Another cool one, you guys ever want something real interesting, is you should check out Caterpillar makes this phone called the S60, and now they have a new one out that's higher res and all that, called the S61. But it's got, if you see, you got a regular camera and then a second lens, and it says FLIR, and that's because it's a thermal camera. You guys aren't going to be able to see that worth a damn, but yeah. I mean, it's a full, I think it's 640 by 480 thermal camera. It's awesome. You can find, you know, studs in the walls and stuff. All the time, I sit there and take footage of welds and stuff with this, and then just forget to put them in the edit because I'm too into it, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm finishing up. Yeah, and as far as the office goes, while we're covering that, I did this at my last house. The desk surface is, so first off, all the frame is 1-inch square tube. It's like, I think it's 14 gauge wall. It's not super heavy, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, I could get up and down. I could jump up and down on that over there, and it would hold me fine. That's going to come out of the studs before the desk frame is going to break. But then the tops are just 3/4 inch MDF. We cut them to shape, put a 3/4 inch round over on the edge, and then sanded with 180 and then up to 120. Gave them a clear coat of polyurethane. Let that, 6 hours, whatever they say. Sanded again, another clear coat, and boom, that's it. There's nothing else that I've had to do to this. And I love them. Like, they're super resistant, and if I ever do scratch it up real bad or anything like that, I can unbolt it, and this is 3 pieces too, so I could just unbolt the one section, take it outside, spray it again with clear coat, and be done with it. Did that at my last place, and I beat the hell out of that desk for 2.5 years, and it was fine. So this one should last, and now it's on a much nicer frame than my old one was too. Everything was wood back then. Yeah. Yeah, Master Bauer is talking about the 3D printing apps. Or like 3D scanning apps is really what they are. There's one, it's either Autodesk or Inventor, maybe, but you take, a couple dozen to a couple hundred pictures of an object, and then I think it's rendering off-site, so you put them in this program, and then hours later you get back a 3D model. And I think they have a version that maybe through the phone that it's a faster turnaround, but it's not as accurate. And those are interesting. I've played around with them. I'm not a big fan of like when your data has to go off-site to be processed. Like, I have a screaming fast computer. Let me process it myself. If you look at Fusion 360, it will let you offload your processing to their servers for some like credit or whatever that you can buy, of course. And that's great if you have a lower spec computer or it's some ridiculous model or something. Like, I understand the market for it, but I've done it once, and they say, it's faster than doing it on your computer too. I've done it once, and it was not faster. So like, I used this credit thing, the one free one they gave me, and my computer was still faster. So just stop trying to make me send my data away. I don't want to. Oh, Jesus. Master Bauer wants to make train rails for a narrow gauge railroad with cars that are 200 to 400 pounds. What gauge of 1-inch square tube should he use? How many cars? That's the big one. How many cars? And underneath the rail, how often are the supports? When I think of a train, I think there's like a railroad tie, and then maybe the width of a railroad tie to 1.5 times that much of just gravel, and then another railroad tie. So it's not a whole lot of gap that isn't supported, and that's the big one that would matter there. I would say if it's adequately supported underneath, then 11 gauge would probably do the trick. I would say fairly confidently 11 gauge would do the trick. If you wanted to just get a little bit of extra security, you could go up to like 3/16, but that's pretty stout, and you really don't. 11 gauge is like 10 gauge is pretty much 1/8 of an inch. So 11 gauge is a little bit less than that, and it depends where you are in the country too. Around me, when I go buy thin wall tubing up to 2-inch, I'm generally offered, 3/16, 11 gauge, 14 gauge, and then if in 1-inch and 3/4 inch, 16 gauge. And those are just like the only wall size, even special order stuff, but that's the only stuff that's stocked and reasonably priced. And, I know it's going to be available. I have one metal yard that I go to for almost everything. And if they, for some reason, don't have to have it or don't have it, and I have to have it, I can go somewhere else and they're going to have it. So, nah. Master Bauer, I don't know about that. I'm actually not. It's talking about using 1/4 inch by 2 inch plate as the ties and having 3 per 6 foot section of track. So to me, I read that as they're going to be 2 or 3 feet apart. So, and I don't know what they're going to sit on, concrete or something, but if you have a 2 foot gap or a 22 inch gap or 21 inch or whatever you want to call it, and you're wanting to span that and then put 400 pounds in the middle of it, I don't know that 1 inch is the way to do that. I think you're going to need more ties because of that 1/4 inch gap. You're going to end up with something with this little wave in it in between each tie. And that's not an awesome way to do it, if you were asking me. If you're insistent on not having as many ties, then I would almost say you need to get a piece of 1 inch by 1/4 inch plate and weld that to the bottom of the rails, or at least every so often down the rails, so that you're not, so that the rail has support. Because if you're just trying to sit a 1 inch rail on a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch thick tie, you're going to have a 1/4 inch worth of sag in between each one of those ties. I would say not more than 12 to 16 inches. So I don't know. There's so much going on with that. It's a weird one, but if I had to build it and didn't have a chance to test it, I would not have a 1 inch diameter, 1 inch wide, any gauge wall track that's supposed to have 400 pounds sitting on it with a support anything less than every 12 inches, preferably like even 9 inches. With that said, though, you can have those ties and you could just cut like a 1 inch by 1 inch square or like a 1 inch by 2 inch piece and just tack those in every so often so the weight's sitting down on them. Yeah, I would use more ties. That's my take. And I mean, to be honest, if this is going to sit on concrete or something like that, where the ties won't press, if it's on gravel, the ties press into the ground and some of the weight goes right from the rail to the gravel. I would even, for how it's not going to cost anything really, I would put like a 1 inch by 1 inch, 1/4 inch thick spacer in between each tie. And I get told that I overbuild stuff. Like my cutting station at work is, what is it? It's like 28 feet long. It's got 6 supports underneath it, and those supports are welded to columns, and they are 3 inch by 1.5 inch by 1/4 inch thick C-channel coming out of the wall. And they come out 24 inches. And then I have a diagonal that is 1.5 inch by 2 inch, I think, rectangular tubing going back down to the column where it meets the ground. And I want to say that's 11 gauge wall. And then on top of that, I have an inch and a half square tube frame, and that's all 11 gauge. And then on top of that, I have 3/4 inch MDF with paste wax on it. And I mean, I would park my Jeep on this thing. And there's no reason for it to be that strong except for that I never have to worry about it. If I needed to work on the forklift or something and had to kick it up at some weird angle, I would put half the weight of the forklift on that cutting station. If I needed to, if I had 30 bags of concrete I needed to put somewhere that wasn't on the ground, I would put them on it. It doesn't cost very much to overbuild something, but unless there's a reason not to do it, it's not going to hurt anything. And welding heavier metal is always more fun. Welding thin stuff sucks. I should know. Yeah, Mike's got a great idea over there with the dial indicator. I mean, dial indicator's not free though. If you wanted to do it that way, do a test and stick playing cards in there, and see if it's 16 inches apart, and it takes 20 playing cards to make a 1/4 inch. I don't know. I'm just pulling that out of nowhere. And I put them in the middle, and I can't just slide them back out, then I know it's touching. So take the weight off, take one out, put it back down. If you still can't slide a card out, you know it's touching. Repeat until you can slide a card out. And then for argument's sake, let's say it takes 25 to make a 1/4 inch and they're 100th of an inch each, which I think is right, actually. And it takes 6 of them. You have to pull 6 out before they move freely. I don't know if that's a big deal to you or not. Personally, I don't know. It's not a huge deal. Yeah, see, a lot of people get into this with comparing wood to metal, right? You say, I'm always giving people crap when they build. Like I watch some of these van conversions, and you see people building these fold-up beds and stuff in the back of their van where space is at a premium, and they're using 2x4s. And you're sitting there going, I know it's going to cost you money to go get a welder to do this for you, but it's worth it. Like a 2x4 over a 3-foot span has the same weight-bearing ability as a 3/4 inch square tube 11 gauge, if you can get it, or a 1 inch square tube 14 gauge, which is, that's 3.5 inches. This is 1 inch. It makes it's a lot nicer. But if you need something super rigid at small scales, simple pieces, metal's more flexible than wood. If you guys ever get into working on like mechanics and materials, and you look up Young's modulus and forgetting whatever the property is now, it's been a couple years, but it's variable as I, and it has to do with the stiffness of different shapes when loaded in different directions. Like a square is awesome for pressing down. Like if you take a square column and then press down on it, that's awesome with a hollow center. But per weight, it's crap when you compare it to a wire being pulled. So in compression, it's great, and in tension, it sucks. And when you take a square and you put it at an angle and then load weight onto it, it's much easier to make that bow than it is if you take the same weight of steel and just make it, the shape of a 2x4, like rectangular and solid. That will bow less than a square cross-section will in most cases. And that's why you have things like I-beams and C-channel and whatnot, as they are all, C-channel's great, super strong if you load it in the correct direction. You take an I-beam and you have it in the shape of an I, whatever, there's the top half, and you put weight on it here, it's going to resist deflecting. You turn that whole system this way and then put weight on it, it's not going to resist as much. It's still pretty strong, so you have these two webs here, but it isn't as strong as it is when you take the same piece and just rotate it 90 degrees. And then you get into like really weird structures like laminations and stuff, like laminate, like plywood. I mean, plywood's strong in like every way that wood isn't, unless you take plywood and press it on the edges of the plies. It's not as strong there as that same thickness of wood would be. And it makes perfect sense because the laminations are all, the laminations run this way and then you put a load on it from the side, it's not going to be, that's not what it's designed to resist. So got me off on a tangent there. It's one thing that I get people that give me crap about the design of a sign. Today I was welding a pole, a 1.5 inch round post or pole or pipe onto a pole that the Northwest Automotive sign I built went onto. And the guy it was for, he's just razzing me, but he's like, oh, is that going to be strong enough when it's done? And I weigh right at 200 pounds. So I grab a hold of it and just do a chin up. And I'm like, it should be able to hold your lights up just fine, And that's a round cross section. If I took the exact same amount of weight in steel and put a square piece up there mounted square, it wouldn't do that well. But if I cocked it 45 degrees, it would perform nearly as well as the circle would. I don't know. Anywho, guys, if you guys got questions, hit me with them. We're just rolling past an hour. I'm probably going to be winding this down, as much fun as it is. Got a beautiful wife in the other room, and past 9 o'clock here. Just remember, because of the whole YouTube algorithm thing, I'm going to be doing these once a month. I'm going to be real strict with myself about making sure I'm actually here, though, first Thursday of every month, 8 p.m. Central. If I'm out traveling somewhere or something like that, we'll get a, maybe we'll do some combo stuff. I may be, when's the first Thursday in October? I might actually be in Dallas for that one. October 4th. Yeah, I might be in Dallas for that one. So if I'm down there or in that area, so if I'm down there, there's JK Canvas, Chucky, if I'm over that way, Steven, Justin at the Good of the Land, who knows? I haven't talked to any of those guys except for Justin at the Good of the Land yet. So there you go. All right, Graham's asking me about a good starter welder. The thing I say to everybody, and this is because I want you to like welding, is the best starter welder is the one you can buy for about 50% more than whatever you think your budget is. And that's because, let's say you want to spend $1,000 to get into welding and you want to do MIG welding. If you want to do stick, there's a bunch of different ways to do stick. Master Bauer, I'll get right back to Steven here in a second from what I know. And that's public stuff. I'm not giving anything away. But the best welder you can buy, assuming you want to get into MIG, stick and TIG, you can get cheaper machines because there's less moving parts. So there you go. But say you want to spend $1,000 and you want to get into MIG. So before we start off with the machine, you're going to need $150 to $200 to, if you want to not pay as much for gas in the future, $300 for a cylinder of gas that you own. If you want to rent one, that's on you, but it's stupid. In 2 years, almost anywhere you go in 2 years, your rental will pay for the tank. So unless you're planning on quitting this hobby within 2 years, just buy the tank. All right, so we got that. Then you need, equipment. So on the low end, $60 for a helmet. On the good end, like I use the Miller Digital Infinity line because I love them, and I have two now, and they're just shy of $300, but they're worth it. So let's say you're gonna go spend $100 on a welding helmet, and then another $100 on gloves, jacket, steel toe boots, or maybe you already have some cotton, some good heavy cotton pants, the things you actually need to weld safely. So now we're into this for what? 150, 250, argument's sake, let's just say $300 before you've even bought a machine. So now you need a machine. So if you wanted to spend $1,000, now you're at $700, which you can still get a pretty decent MIG machine, especially if you're willing to buy something used for $700. So it sucks. It's really, this is like one of the most common things, and everybody else that I talk to says the same thing. Like, I can go all circle jerky and, you know, be like, hey, buy an HTP, because not only are their machines badass, but they support me and what I do here. But the reality is they're not cheap machines. You know, they're made for, I'm pretty sure you could shoot the ProPulse 200 and it would keep welding. The thing is just a tank, and you can, you know, I tried to, we were chasing down a bug that got fixed, and it wasn't an HTP thing. But I was chasing down a bug talking to Zila over Zila Welding, and Pete Zila, sorry. And he was like, dude, just overheat the machine, get it to, you know, take it past its duty cycle. I was like, all right. So I just grabbed a piece of like 1/4-inch scrap plate, turned the machine up to the highest settings it would go, and started welding. It took 9 freaking minutes to overheat this machine. And that was maxed out. Like, as the plate I was welding on looked like a bowl when I was done, just because of the amount of heat. And I was just welding circles on it. Like, they're great machines, but they're not cheap. So, like, the best thing, in my opinion, is like one of the major name brand machines that has good reviews, used, bought from a shop that you go pick it up from, or a guy's garage or whatever, that's clean. Because, like, you probably wouldn't want to come to my shop and be like, oh yeah, I want to buy your used equipment. My shop's not clean. Like, I don't have time to clean my shop. I don't have time to do, like, super regular, like, you know, there's people out there who take the welder apart and vacuum the dust out of it. And no, like, that's not me. If anything, I'll pop the lid off and blow it out with compressed air if there's a problem where maybe that might help. But I mean, change filters and stuff when you need to on, like, the plasma cutter, because that is important, but And the other thing you can do is use it. You know, if you're going to buy a used machine, be like, hey, look, I'm coming over. I want to see the machine work, you know, and then just test it out. So it's rough. Like, I guess the big thing is my suggestion is, if you want to weld, and I think I might have said this last time, if you want to weld because that is a means to an end, and the end is what you're after, get a machine. You get whatever will do what you need it to do in the price range you need it to do. If you want to weld because you want to enjoy welding, get a name brand, good quality machine, get good consumables, get good equipment. You know, like my Lincoln Digital Infinity helmet, they're $300, and I have 2 of them. And like, at $600, you could buy a Harbor Freight welder and a Harbor Freight welding helmet and be off and running. But I have that just in my helmets because this is what I do, you know? So I want my welding to be as comfortable as possible. Anyway. Oh, and then the rest of your question, MIG, TIG, or stick. There's different schools of thought here. MIG's super easy. If you want to get into like the nuts and bolts of welding, TIG is a great way to go. And AVE or AVE did a great video on why you should start welding with a TIG welder. And then stick is like the most frustrating and forgiving process, I guess, in my opinion. But it has its own advantages. They all have their own advantages. I mean, MIG, you want to weld some crap closed, MIG. Like, you want to build a 74-foot boat in your front yard, ask Doug Jackson, MIG. You know, you want to knock out a bunch of signs where your welds are going to get ground anyway because everything has to be perfectly smooth, MIG. And if I'm doing something where you're going to see my welds, I mean, it's both, but MIG or TIG. But anyway, I hope that answered the question. feel free to get in touch with me if you have any specific examples. But I mean, realistically, the only machines I have a lot of arc time with are Everlast and HTP, and I have the only complaint I have about the HTP is that I didn't get one sooner, and I hate that the switch is on the back of them. But the switch is on the back of almost all of them, so I can't hold that. That's a European thing. I think if you want to sell a welder in Europe, the switch has to be on the back for some stupid safety reason. So you got to reach around the welder to turn it on and off. Whatever. I mean, I don't have any big complaints about that machine at all. I love working with it. And the Everlast, I'm not going to knock them. It was a great machine. I mean, I still have it, but it was a good machine. I used it for like a year and a half solid. I bought it new, and it was my everyday machine for a year and a half. And it worked. It got me from working, and I had a Miller 220, 210, 221, I don't know, one of the old little Miller MIG welders, the 110 only ones. And it got me from that to where I am now. It was a thing. It was the welder that let me kind of jump up at what I'm doing. And then as far as Master Bauer is asking about Steven, from what I know about what Steven's been up to is him and his wife were moving, and she's going to school. She's doing like a short class, and so he's kind of having a focus on being stay-at-home dad, as far as I know. And this was just from his videos. There's no other circle of information going on. So I think that's what's up. As far as where he's been, because I have noticed he's been a little bit less busy, but that's that. Yeah, and Lincoln makes, what is that combo called? The Multimatic. I think it's the Multimatic like 221 or 231. I looked at one of those when I originally bought the Everlast, and the features on it couldn't talk me into the $2,000-ish price. When Everlast had machines out there that had the same duty cycle for just a hair over half the price. I literally have not used one of those Miller multi units, so I don't have an opinion on them. All I can say is what I went with, but I love having that HTP. It doesn't do stick, but I can MIG and TIG with it. So, and I can do, does pulse, does double pulse, I can weld aluminum. It's nice. Yeah, stick isn't bad. Like, it's hard to get really, really good at stick, in my opinion. Like the people who do it are, it's one of those, 10,000 hours of anything and you become an expert. But I think stick is really frustrating to new people because, there's no information. Like you just have a stick that's always electrified, and then you touch it to something and sparks happen. Whereas, MIG, you've got, you can go talk to somebody. Like I had some friends at the shop a couple weeks ago that wanted to try welding, and I just said, all right, Leia, watch me. And then now you lay a line down, and then we just, with a Sharpie, just marked out, this is where you went too fast, and this is where you went too slow, and this is where you were moving too much, and this is where you pulled the gun back too far, because with practice, you can read that. And with stick, it's harder, in my opinion, to do that. Anyway, Care Bear TV. Interesting. Hello. Unfortunately, you guys are catching me right as we're getting ready to wrap up. Guys, give me a shout. I think YouTube got rid of messaging, but my email's there. You guys can get a hold of me on Instagram too. Happy to answer questions. One of the reasons I got into this whole YouTube thing is because I never went to welding school. I never went to fab school. I never any of that. I never even was in a shop class in high school. I learned a lot of what I know from, all right, Care Bear, goodbye. People just blow my mind. I learned a lot of what I know from watching other people and from the generosity of people who brought me, who were willing to just teach. And, you know, I'm kind of, at least in my opinion, at the point where I now have something to teach. So this is kind of part of how I do this. One of the reasons I have an intern, because like I don't make money on having him there, and he tries his best, but I don't. He just, you know, there are times when he saves me time, but a lot of time it's a wash. But I would have loved for somebody to have done that for me when I was 15, 16, 17, to, you know, have somebody let me into the shop and let me use real tools and, you know, show me, you know, people will tell you like, hey, don't use a grinder disc, or don't use a cutoff disc as a grinding disc. And you go, okay, why? And they go, because it will explode. And you go, why? And they go, it will explode. And that's the end of the conversation. Whereas like with him, I said, all right, fine. Let's, you know, put a full face shield on, put 2 jackets on, and do it. And he blew one up. And, you know, I was telling him, don't have it aiming at your face while you're doing it. And he blew a disc up, and he goes, all right, I totally get why that happens now. We need more of that in this world, in my opinion. So I'm doing what I can. Anyway, guys, I will catch you guys around. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't have kids. I would not want to raise one, and how whiny the whole world is these days. I don't know. Goodbye.